We are, together we are Axolot, that's our name. Nosotros somos Axolot. We are part of the Sonreal musical collective. Somos el colectivo musical de Sonreal. If you guys were at Mr. Blue's last event, you guys might remember us because we were there as well playing. But we're here to play for you all. We hope that you enjoy. Muchas gracias. Estamos aquí para tocar para ustedes. Ojalá que les guste y ahí les va. Esta próxima canción es El Conejo. This next song is El Conejo. Oh yeah. So this is Son Jarocho from Veracruz. This song is, this music is played by jaranas, harp, and requinto. So this is a requinto jarocho. Those are jaranas, and then this is a harp. And so together, the jaranas will play the rhythm, and the harp and the requinto will normally play the melodic lines. Yeah, and this music is all about the community. So. Colás del Conejo. That song is actually about, it's called The Rabbit. So this music is a lot about nature. It has a lot to do with community. So, you know, obviously in Veracruz, rabbits were very common. So, of course, he wrote a song about a rabbit. Esta canción era el conejo, que es algo, una parte de la naturaleza. Ajá. Entonces sí, pues ahí está la naturaleza y la comunidad que está aquí. Y bien rápido quiero introducirnos. Entonces acá está mi hermano Miguel Lizardi tocando jarana tercera, el señor Emilio Amaya aquí tocando el arpa, mi hermano de son real, mi hermano Mauricio aquí tocando la jarana primera y yo Martín Lizardi tocando el requinto. So my brother Miguel Lizardi is on the jarana, Emilio on the harp, my brother Mauricio on the jarana primera, and then I'm on the requinto jarocho. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. This next one is called El Colás. So yeah.
Vamos a darle un fuerte aplauso a los padres. It's so difficult to get our children to actually, you know, do this type of music, because this is not on the radio, this is not on TV, but this is actually our music, you know, like Mexicans, like myself from Southeast Mexico, from Veracruz. This is my cultura, this is my music, and I'm really proud to be here playing with the, you know, with the muchachos, because you know we don't see this, we don't see that very often. So let's put it together again for the parents, Martin, and thank you. How are you?
next one is probably the most famous Son Jarocho song that there is, La Bamba, yeah. So this was actually a song written, well, there's no official, right, but probably in the 1600s, because this song was actually written about when a pirate attacked Veracruz, the port of Veracruz, in the 1600s. So El Pirata Lorenzo attacked Veracruz, and if you listen to the verse, when they say, Yo no soy marinero, yo no soy marinero por ti seré, what he's saying is, we're not, or what anyone is saying is, we're not sailors, but to you we are, because pirates only attack sailors. So if you're attacking us, then we must be sailors to you. So yeah, it's a really interesting song, and it has a lot of history. So yeah, La Bamba. So this next one is also one of the oldest ones. So this is actually El Chuchumbe. And for sure we know that it was written during the Spanish Inquisition because it was actually banned during the Spanish Inquisition in Mexico. So this is a very old son jarocho song in the 1700s. Is the first official account, but like we said, it could be older. And yeah, this one we're gonna play with just jaranas and requinto, which is more in the jaranero style. There's jarocho style, which has a harp. Jaranero style is more only these stringed instruments up here. Sometimes also a leona, which is more of a bass instrument. And so yeah, this is actually a really interesting song. It's a very important part of Mexico's history, and so yeah, here we go. El Chuchumbe. Yeah, I hope everyone's enjoying it. Yeah.
una organización que da servicios a los inmigrantes legales, el Centro de Servicios Comunitarios de San Bernardino, the Musical Collective in Son Real. It's actually a project of the San Bernardino Community Service Center where we provide legal services to the immigrant community. Our staff attorney, Russell Hardy, is someplace around here. Where are you, Russell? Hi, Russell. And we use the music as a way to empower the community, basically. And our music speaks about, legal rights, and speaks about human rights, and also speaks about the fact that as a community, the only thing that we can do changes in our society is by coming together, enjoying our diversity. And when it comes to Mexican music, sometimes people think that mariachi is all it is in Mexican music or norteño, but actually, Mexico is a really large country, so you can find different types of music throughout Mexico. Son Real is one of them. And so I want to thank you for Jorge. What is Jorge? Thank you for inviting us. Gracias por apoyar aquí a los muchachos, Jorge.
Yes. Yes, this next one is El Cascabel, or like the little bell.
Escucha cómo resuma
you for having us. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed. And follow us on Instagram at musica_astronaut. It's astronaut. Musica_astronaut.
Gracias, Emilio. Welcome, bienvenidos. My name is Esther Fernandez. I am the artistic director of the Cheech, and it is so wonderful to see everyone coming out today. My apologies for parking. I'm blaming the RMA, but we'll get a handle on that. But thank you all for braving the parking and coming out on a busy Saturday. And thank you especially to Jorge and to Lilia, who've worked really hard with Mariana Carrion, our Cheech Program Associate, to put on this wonderful event. And this is what we want to see here at the Cheech. We want to see comunidad, we want to see palabra, we want to see música. And I'm just grateful to our community partners with Jorge and Lilia who make our jobs easier. So without further ado, I'll hand it over and welcome.
I want to thank each and every one of you for being here this evening. This was a very easy event to put together, and it kind of fell together very easily. Lilia, my collaborator there, said, hey, we need to do a Chicano Poesia night. And I said, okay. And then the exact next day, Donato calls me and says, hey, Blue, is there a chance that I can get on the radio program? I says, well, why don't we do something better? Why don't we put together a poetry night? And between the three of us, we were able to assemble today's function. So thank you to Donato and thank you to Lina. So I am clumsy at times, so it's not my fault. So I prepared some remarks tonight, and if you know me, I normally never prepare remarks. But these are some kick-ass poets. I don't want to look lame in front of them. So I am old enough and lucky enough to have been a participant in the Chicano movement as a high school student in the 70s and as a college student in the 80s. I went to UC Riverside and they had a very strong Chicano studies program there. We had classes like Chicano poetry and art, Chicano sociology. As an achista, I traveled up and down the state. UCR had a writers program, and that very first year that I was a student, I saw three important people that changed the direction of my life. Cesar Chavez, Jose Montoya, and Alurista. And then throughout the years, I've seen Lorna Dix Cervantes, Estela Portillo Tremblay, and just a whole host of people and poets and writers and movimentistas and artists and singers. So my life has in fact been very blessed. The reason we've chosen poetry as tonight's program is that poetry has a way of capturing our fears, our anger, our self-doubt, our journey, our awakening, and the growth of our awareness and our strength as we grow in them. I'll never forget the very first time I read the opening lines of Jose Montoya's poem, Louis, and then actually got to hear him read those. There was a book called Literatura Chicana, Texto y Contexto by Tomás Ibarra Fausto, a book that I still have today at age 60, and I had that used book at age 18. That opening line was, Hoy enteraron el Louis, en San Pedro or San Pinchi or Enfor. In those early times of the 40s and 50s, Las Tumbato de Atoye. I remember thinking, okay, is he talking about me or what? And then the descriptor of how Louis dressed. Louis hit on the idea for tailor-made drapes. Unique idea, porque Fowler no era nada como los, or EPT. That ability of Jose Montoya to go in and out of English with a little bit of jive talk and calon gave validity to a Cholo Chuco Chicano like me who had been ostracized and belittled for the way that I dressed, for the way that I acted, and more importantly, for the way that I dressed. In that same book, he had a poem called La Jefita, And that reminded me so much of my mom, especially that last line where the father says, that woman only complains in her sleep. The irony being that she never slept. She took care of her kids, she cooked, she cleaned, and she also pulled her 100 libras de algodón, right? She pulled her weight. That strength of that mom, I saw my mother reflected in that. My anger was captured by Jose Angel Gutierrez's 22 miles. 22 miles representing each year of journey and his experiences and trauma as a Chicano in a society that devalued him, demeaned him, belittled him, and tried to force him to accept the status quo. But he had his awakening. And these are the lines from his poem that shows his awakening. Because now that he questioned, I've been told that I am dangerous. That is because I am good at not being a Mexican. That is because I know now that I have been cheated. That is because I hate circumstances and love choices. You know, chorizo tacos and tortillas are good, even at school. Speaking Spanish is a talent. Being Mexican is as good as rainbow bread. So he had his awakening. But the poem that captured the way I felt was this poem. Poem for the young white man who asked me how I, an intelligent, well-read person, could believe in the war between the races. And that's just the title. That's Lona Cervantes. And we have always been jammed up repeatedly. Any conversation we have on disparity, racism, or sexism, they think that since we have become educated and professionals, somehow or the other, those issues have magically appeared. But people like to think that if you've made it, then it's all about you and no one else. But what we have to remember is that we come from a community, and we could never give up on the community. But these are the lines from that poem that struck me the most. Because in explaining people why I believe there's racism, here's the line. I am marked by the color of my skin. The bullets are discreet and designed to kill slowly. They are aiming at my children. These are facts. Let me show you my wounds, my stumbling mind, my excuse me tongue, and this nagging preoccupation with the feeling of not being good enough. These bullets bury deeper than logic. Racism is not intellectual. I cannot reason these scars away. Outside my door is a real enemy who hates me. So that's why we've chosen poetry. So today we have assembled a group of poets that are going to share with you their journey, their search for identity. Different times, but same issue. And I want to introduce, where's Darren De Leon? Parrot. All right. He's my timekeeper. He's from Radio Aslan. He's also from Los Delicados. He has a podcast, Rama Prince. He's an awesome dude, a firme vato. He's going to be the MC. He'll be the timekeeper. Anybody steps out of line?
That is a tall step to follow. Welcome everyone to the Cheech. I want to just take a quick second just to acknowledge the land keepers of this community, which include the Nuya, the Gabrielino, Serrano, Luiseño, and Mojave. Also want to thank the young folks from Conjunto Axolotl. That was a great set. Love it. In fact, I mentioned to them that it would be a blessing if they were able to play that type of music for the rest of their lives and make a living out of it. That's what we need. We need more artistic expressions, and this is what the Cheech has been opened up to do, to allow this community expression to exist. And today is a great example of that. Look at this crowd here. This is a great crowd. Wow. You know, I spent 20 years in San Francisco inside the writing program up there. and we would have 3-day floricantos, we'd have 6-hour readings. Hopefully we don't get like that today. It's a rabbit hole that Chicanos fall into all the time. So we gotta make sure that we stick to our 15 minutes. That's 15 minutes of first word out of your mouth to the thank you at the end. Not 15 minutes of poetry. With that, I just want to share a poem with you. I love the idea of helping define your identity through the arts. That's something that a lot of artists go down. But what I find myself doing is I find myself at dance. So this one is called A Feast of Tear Gas and Tango. This is when I was involved with the Occupy Oakland movement. And the cops were coming down on us. What we gotta do? We escaped the war-torn plaza with scarves that hide our identity, descend down into the den in gancho steps. Gorilla across the floor, I step inside, gently brush your thigh in malonga ochos. This, our first dance, I radiate solar heat, good for fertile soil. You heat on into ripened fruit. A harvest of peaches appear from your shoulders as lechuga laces your waist. A milpa of corn adorns your back, your spine. An orchard of apples, your torso of melons. Asparagus protrudes from your knees. Tangerines from the inside of your elbows. I breathe in the lavender and rosemary of your breath. 1 million can feed off the nectarines in your lips, but I am greedy with you. I am now the sun and you are fully exposed. Without a shadow of relief, your adornos leave no tracks. My barida brings you into my embrace. I shift into hawk. When you say besos, I roam for you. Hunted prey, afraid, duck into bushes, enter the safety of caves and darkness. Most around us feed off the cuttings that we leave behind. The nutritious love we make in cadenas and mordidas as El Mago composes for us. We love Jardel. When the accordion is put away, I request a cortina inside the taxi home and savagely prepare a salad from your body. With you, I am home, sleeping in the coppice of your breast. Together we set traps for each other and innocently trigger the contraptions willing to be victims of sustenance and love. In the morning, I'm confused about what is home, the nape of your neck filled with honey wine or the jail cell disguised as my apartment. We shower ourselves from slumber and slumber in the shower. We sink into the drain of passion. Your essence is the warm wind against my face. I do not want to wipe the sleep from my eyes because it is you that has planted itself in my field of vision. We feed each other. All right, now we're ready to bring the real poetry. The first is my honor to introduce. She is our Wendy Al Silva is a queer Latinx poet from Santa Maria, California, and the proud daughter of Mexican immigrants. She did her undergrad studies at UC Riverside and received an MFA from the University of Idaho. She's won numerous poetry prizes, including the Judy Kronfeld Award in Poetry, and in 2013 she received the Academy of American Poets Prize. She currently teaches over at RCC, and most of recent work can be found in the Line Writer Press, the Packing House Review, and the Essentials Review. Welcome to the stage, Wendy L. Silva.
All right, let me make this mask. Wow,
look at all these beautiful faces in the crowd. Thank you so much for all of you for being here. Thank you to Jorge and Lilia for getting all of this put together and situated for us. Thank you to Esther and the Cheech for hosting tonight. I'm really appreciative. And it really is a true honor and privilege to be sort of opening for all of these other incredible poets that will come on stage after me. So I'm hoping I can get in my 15 minutes, my 5 poems here. So both of my parents worked in the agricultural fields growing up. So they would do the circuit. They lived in Mexico for like 6 months out of the year. They would come into California, go all the way up California, Oregon, Washington, picking whatever was in season, and then they would come back down to Mexico for the other part of the year. So this poem is for them. It's called My Story in the Style of Peaches. My mother picked peaches in the fields my father did, where they reached into the same trees 1,000 times and plucked from the morning's ear the fruit that shed its fuzz on their flannel shirts, made them itch until their necks burned from sun and sweat and tiny hairs, not unlike the ones that grew in blonde above my lip, before I waxed them off in hopes of finding someone to shoot me straight into the sky without purpose. When I was 16, I fell in love with a girl whose arms would wrap around me while she slept, whose hips would press mine into dreams where I'd pretend this is how it was supposed to be. A delicate torture, the deep purr of her congestion rising from her chest like the sounds my parents must have heard as the conveyor belts rolled by with mounds of peaches, some too ripe, too bruised, too young to be anything at all. So when I was 2 weeks old, my father's aunt, so she's my paternal grandfather's sister, came to live with us as basically like a live-in nanny. And so old school, maybe not so old school Mexican culture, if you were the only girl in your family, when you were born, basically your job was to be the caretaker for life. You did not really have any other options. So because she was the only girl in a family of 6, she took care of all her brother's siblings, and then when her parents got elderly, she took care of them, and she was never given the opportunity to really get an education, to date, to marry, none of that. She was just a caretaker for life. And so my brother and I were the last 2 kids that she helped raise. So this poem is about her, and it's about what it's like to be a queer woman in the world, having been raised by 2 women, and my dad was there too, but mostly by these 2 women. So I have an epigraph here from Adrienne Rich's essay called Compulsory Heterosexuality in the Lesbian Existence. So she says, I mean the term lesbian continuum to include a range through each woman's life and throughout history of woman-identified experience, not simply the fact that a woman has had or consciously desires genital sexual experience with another woman. La vida squeezed its hands around Tia's flesh tantas veces, her face began to bulge with the walls she funneled through. She came to us when I was 2 weeks old, held my body like a basket of her deseos dulces y extenuados, wouldn't let my feet touch ground for fear la vida would strangle me too. Bathed me tantas veces al día, scrubbed my bottom every time I shit, so la vida couldn't smell me coming. Her cuerpo never knew choice to mold flesh from inside. Instead, she built castillos de cobijas to hide me from la vida while mom was at work. She taught me to grind crackers and metates fine enough for la vida to feed from. She'd call me hija, a warning I was not a niña perdida with no one to claim her. Anything to keep la vida from my dreams, she did. She turned la cocina to a scent garden as I slept. Candles de pollo, mole tinted in chocolate shavings. At 5, la vida lured me to the bus stop across the street and shoved English down my throat like pinole, the sweetest of deserts growing in my mouth. Mom's too, lo seco lifting off her tongue at 16, learning to say please and my name is. With Tia at mass, Mom would let me dance to shusha in the mud, squeeze shaving cream on plastic mats, draw with my hands. To Mom, I was mija, the one word spelled in her womb. When Dia closed the door to her Vida's blue room and landed somewhere in Mexico with a brain tumor the size of an infant's fist, I was 7. I don't believe in ghosts. Still, I imagine she watches me hours in bed with women who ask the difference between mija and hija. If Dia knew La Vida was more than a bruised blue room to die in, that it did not trap me between the thighs of women out of spite, she might see lo que me enseñó. A girl can have 2 mothers. Dia left me a house in a town with no roads, as if La Vida would not travel to a place with cement walls, burros wandering wreckage. Mom sold it. There are some places que no deberíamos ir, especially to hide. So I whisper to La Vida in my sleep como si fuera amante, her cold feet still pressed to mine. So this poem is called La Frontera, which means the border or the borderlands. It's after Gloria Anzaldúa. The border is a skin-stretched belly. The rivers, the roads mark times of expansion and compression. Over the true ribs of Santa Ana down to the floating Tenochtitlan or the sweated forest of Quintana Roo. But my mother shoved me in Spanish class and said, speak. No mention of north or south, or how nutrients used to flow to my belly button from 2 sides, ours and ours. They called our language chuntis, pedacitos de English and Spanish como un pinche braid, con cabellos, pelos sticking out like loose nerve endings, expanding and compressing. Look at a map, pendejo. The swollen Texcoco of our mother has dried. Do you know what that means? Why do Mexican grandmothers put alcohol in Windex bottles, or their 367 rosarios on the backs of doors like reeds? Jewelry you could wear on a night out, until you notice the bloody Jesus dangling from the tip and you realize this is not the message you want to send to the cute girl from class. But you can't tell your Catholic abuela, not because her shame or disappointment, but because she's dead and already is putting in the paperwork to get you crucified. This is her language of sacrifice, one I would never know, not even after reading 4 years of Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz, a woman who knew more about this cuerpo than I ever will. The beautiful place, La Barranca, thousands of stone steps descending into a jungle of rain and crabs scuttling around the trunks of pear trees to pray. No dangling Jesus in the sweet air. I don't know where in the body I was then, though I knew near the heart. I could hear it pulsing. No carreteras, no compresión. Do you know the balance of borders? There is none. Tenochtitlan era araña once, its legs reaching out to land, its belly resting in cool water, collecting drops like beads around its neck. What my mother said on the first day of school was not speak, but escucha. Two more for you. So this next poem was sort of inspired by a trip that my partner Jess and I took to Tepatitlan, which is my mom's hometown. And from there we went to Mexico City and we spent a few days checking out Frida Kahlo's house, going to Teotihuacan, doing all the touristy things. So this poem kind of is inspired by that. And it's also inspired by, we went on a tour in the town of Tequila, obviously. And so we were told a story of how the indigenous people came to, quote unquote, discover tequila. So I guess there was a big storm one night. Lightning was kind of hitting all over the place. It happened to hit these big agave fields, and the agave was cooked by the lightning, right? And so when people were walking around that area, they could smell the sweetness in the air, but they were like, where is that sweetness coming from? And so they finally found it. They dug up the piña, kind of looks like a pineapple, underground. It was cooked, they ate it, it was delicious. They continued eating it, and as days passed, it was continuing to ferment. And so they were getting drunk off of the agave they were eating. So a little bit of that story is in here as well. This is called Blue Agave Burn. Smell the blue agave burn its nectar into the earth. Remember the story, how sweet and smoky-mouthed gods gifted my people with dance and song and a blue plant cooked by lightning. They sucked the syrup from a fleshy leaf hungrily, but you only remember the blue eyes of the Españoles, the stones they ripped from the Aztec temples lined along their church walls. What about the blue house and the embroidered Tehuacan blouses she kept in her closet like secrets her body once bore? Desire clung to the paint in her portraits, to the blue walls, to the bird of paradise growing wild in the garden that reminded me of my father. I would have had you there with her mirror above us, painting and remaking our image with hers. We touched the temple of the moon with our bare hands. Our bare hands, the finger grooves in the stucco, bits of obsidian scattered in the dirt like black stars. The banana trees grow up the side of the house where my tia killed herself. But we only talk about that when the heart is warm and we've forgotten each day ends beyond our reach. After the blue agave fields have aged a few good years and their roots have stitched to the earth like my mother's embroidery, or my grandmother's, or like my own fingers rooted in the burn. Last one here. This poem is called Ode to Frida Kahlo and Time Travel. I don't see a lot of children in the audience. A little sexually explicit, so if there's kids there, cover their ears a little. Ode to Frida Kahlo and Time Travel. Study physics, black holes, computational mathematics, and roll time into a fist. Ride the middle finger to palm center and walk the lines to 1932. She's 25 years old and sitting in the Casa Azul, landscaping her reflection in oils. Watch her swirl her brush in her lap for a red only women can conjure. Watch her put it to her lips. She isn't surprised to see you there, behind the bougainvillea. She calls you güera and asks you to come in for some agua de Jamaica, limping to the kitchen like a revolutionary wounded by war. No flowers in her hair. You already know she wants you when she holds the cup to your mouth for you to sip, her hand curling around your neck. She wants to feel you swallow. This body is a cage she wants to break, but not before she calls you papi and dresses you in a brown suit. Guapo, she says, and curves a mustache across your lip with her brush. She makes you wear her body brace. She wants you restrained. She wants you to feel how her breast caved the bandages. You don't fill half the space, but it still turns you on. It's sex, she says. It's just sex, and you spill the yellow ink across the table like a wet sun. When she's smelling of sweat and hibiscus, your fingers find buds inside her, as if every child she lost were cocooned there in the pink walls of her past. When you ask if it hurts, she pulls you in and says, no pienses en el dolor, and you wonder if she misheard you, or if your Spanish broke in your mouth, though now you can't remember what language you've been speaking. The moans are ravenous bird song. She wants you to paint them, but it's late, and she's already telling you of the other women, the ones she's had on that kitchen table. Open your hand and let your fist bloom. Your mother's standing in the door. It's late, she says, and wipes agua de Jamaica from your chin. It's late and the sopes are cold, and I'm tired of waiting for you to come home. Thank you.
Wasn't that nice? Oh my goodness. Start off with great, beautiful taste. The next poet, I met her today. Very nice poet. She started writing at the age of 10. And she's first generation American, first generation college attendee, and a Chicanx, Latinx civil rights lawyer. She's dedicated to social justice, and her activism, advocacy, and career in law, and now even in poetry, all center on social justice issues close to her heart, particularly immigration, racial justice, and the criminal justice reform. I want to bring up Bernice Espinosa.
As a little girl, Mommy and Papi used to speak to me in Spanish, but I responded in English. So little by little, my Spanish-speaking tongue nearly became numb. In junior high, too afraid to speak Spanish because my English accent might be too strong. Well, instead me quedé callada. And now I'm not afraid. And while I don't know the language perfectly, I do know that with this lenguaje comes a cultura, and I'll never forget what I've learned. I've learned que la verdad no pega, pero incomoda. And sometimes the truth needs to be confronted. Like the fact that my people struggle more than they need to, too often, working long hours for low wages. But despite these adversities, I choose to celebrate. Today, I choose to celebrate. Today, I celebrate my mama, who used to clean our home and the homes of the rich and make them as clean and as beautiful as her soul. And who would protect me from the kugui, even the real racist monsters at my school, and wiped away my tears. Today, I celebrate the tias who prick their finger time after time in all the garment industry sweatshops so I can wear trendy clothes. Today, I celebrate the tios in every restaurant cocina who add Latin flavor to any cuisine because it's made by their labor. Today, I celebrate the elote en paleta, who used to make me smile just hearing their campana calling me to corn smothered in chile and queso or paleta de coco tan dulce. Today, I celebrate Mami Berta, abuelita, with stories that give wisdom, porque el diablo sabe más por viejo que por diablo. Daddy, I celebrate you. Your labor making buildings that reach to the sky the way our gente reach to the sky. Lenguaje mía, esta pocha sabe, if it were not for my gente who've come here to make better lives, not for themselves, but for me, I would not be here. It's because of them. My brothers, my sisters can go out and beat the lawyers, doctors, scientists, politicians, business activists. Lenguaje mía, esta pochita sabe los esfuerzos de mi gente y tengo orgullo. I wrote that poem 20 years ago, Lessons Learned by a Pocha. I did it as a speech, trying out to be the graduate speaker at the Chicanx Latinx graduation at UC Berkeley class of 2003. I didn't make it. So I took that speech and I converted it to a poem that I read from my parents and my family at a tiny little Mexican restaurant on Shattuck. 20 years ago, I didn't think that this poem would be part of Luis Valdez, the Teatro Campesino, the summer, and now I will be able to share it with you. My sister are here, my sobrina. After graduating undergrad and went to law school, I was a public defender here in Riverside. And at that time, a new law came out that public defenders had to learn immigration as it affected, criminal cases affected immigration status. That was important to me. because my mom is from Juarez and an immigrant. And as a child, my tío Tito, who worked for the aduana, used to tell me stories about La Llorona, how she would cry on the side of the river. So in the summer of 2018, when I learned about what Trump was doing as an attorney who is an expert on how immigration consequences affected how these kids were being put into cages and their parents in jail and separated, I thought about what La Nueva Llorona would look like. And I wrote this, La Nueva Llorona. Ya no podemos vivir aquí. Los pandilleros son los que mandan. So like the Quetzal, it's time to fly north con mis hijos de 7 y 8, because I don't want them to end up in a gang or killed because they refused, like their tío. So I packed our backpacks. We headed north, caminando por días, por casi un mes. Con solo poco dinero, llegamos al río y nos pasaron los coyotes. When we thought we were finally free from fear, violence, torture, the screams and tears, they tore me apart. De mis hijos. They caged my boys. They caged me. They imprisoned me. They deported me. I do not know where they are. No sé si están vivos. If they fell into the hands of the shelter workers who only give them one sandwich a day. Or the soldados, the ones who touch them, not with my loving hands, to shut them up, to get their sick joy. Entonces lloro al lado del río, que no puedo pasar. ¿Dónde están mis hijos? Mis hijos. ¿Qué hice? ¿Qué hice a mis hijos? Mis hijos. This week, there will be a change in the law for asylum at the border. The Biden administration intends to allow the same separation of families. Not all of my stuff is impressive. The next poem is called Cheech Marin. Hola. Me llamo Cheech Marin. I got myself a carne asada wrap from Crack the Chipotle sauce. I'm gonna go to my salsa lessons and wear my cute flamingo-like mini skirt. Tomorrow, I'm gonna wear my hair in a crown of braids and a red mañana. And a long black skirt. I swear I'm bi, just like Frida. I don't like her paintings though. They're pretty ugly. What's up with the unibrow and the crazy bloody hearts? But everyone loves Selma. She's so good in that movie. I gotta go and get one of those cute little Mexican bingo bags. What are they called? Oh yeah, Loteria. Or maybe one of those provincial Virgin Mary bags. I saw the cutest little Che BT. I need to get that, so. Cheech Marin. I am the trendy image Chicana, void of voice, culture, significance, just an image, a marketing tool for white consumers to buy, sell. So in 2016, I left the public defenders here and went to Sonoma County and to be a public defender there. There, as a county employee, you are part of the Emergency Operations Center. We had at that time the biggest fire in California in 2017, the Tubbs fire. At that time, for the first 3 days, everything was in English. My butcha self became one of the public information officers in Spanish. That's sad. We had several fires since then, and the wine growers forced workers to cross the evacuation zones to come and harvest. If you don't know, Sonoma is known for wine country. So I left the public defender's office in 2020, and now I do deportation defense. But I continue to work in disaster and relief and support. And I wrote this poem after our Wall Ridge fire in 2020, and it's based on a true story. It's called Crushed Grapes. The fruit, round, ripe, touched by brown hands from Mexico, newly traversed only 30 days. Smoke smoldered skies, no mask to protect from coronavirus, menos en uno. Vino aquí para el sueldo, para dar vida a su hija. Vino, more important que el vino. Estamos en la cosecha, la pizca, must pick the grapes to make the wine that makes Sonoma County worthy of adoration. The lungs of those who pick, that doesn't matter. The haste to pick before fires consume at 106 degrees, that's what's important. Some of us drink to keep us warm in the middle of the night when it drops to cool temperatures. Others, like the forklift driver holding the gondola, take small crystals of energy to keep them up at night. So, the grapes must be crushed, just like he was under the gondola. I started with one celebrating our community, and after I graduated from law school, the struggle to pass the bar exam was that I didn't get diagnosed with a neurodivergency until after taking it the second time. So this one's called Damn It, Be the Poet, and it is sanitized because I don't want my mom to wash my mouth out. Okay. Damn it, be the poet. Be the one who used to be able to say her voice, not worrying how it would sound. Is the style pretty? Does it reflect a certain jive I want to give out? Since when did I start caring about who's reading these damn lines? And since when did I start sacrificing the therapy and being true to me? Damn, ni puedo explicar en la manera que fue tan natural por tanto tiempo. ¿Cómo es que me dejé? Me dejé. That's right, I just let my arms down and I let them take me. Rape me. Let them mold me. And I didn't even need what they wanted. Who they? The men in my life. The ones who tell me all the time I'm an undeserving whore who shouldn't be trusted. They, the institution of law. Both. Place of both pride for the work I got to do with my fellow strugglers, and I've been strugglers in it all. Struggling to keep my head above water in those damn books I never really understood, reading those pages after pages by old white men telling us opinions that in the collective aren't supposed to make sense, aren't supposed to make justice. But that's not what I've learned. I learned what the community struggle. With the people out there in the schools, on the streets, the trabajador, el jornalero, the ones who say, ya basta! That's the one that makes justice, because if it comes to court, someone with hella privilege isn't gonna see what's happening. No, they got to apply the law, not make it. So what's up? Crazy assignment of repeating homogeny, and I got it forced in my head by other pedagogy. I can't conform. I've tried just so that I could make it, so I could fight it, so I could grip it in my hands and say, now stupid piece of law in your mind, and I'm gonna make you into what you should be. So far, that struggle is just that, struggle because that damn bar seems a mountain. I climbed and rolled right down, thinking I was the tightest, just to get a real slam crush in the face, feeling failure for the first time, like real failure. The kind that makes you question, who are you? Why are you doing this? Maybe you should have spent your time in the streets with the jornalero, the teacher, because after all, California doesn't think you're good enough to be a lawyer. I've had all these words stuck in me for so long. They're coming out like mental vomit, hitting every which way. No real death, just all the stuff in me, my insecurity, my feeling, damn it, I used to be a poet. I used to have a heart. I would have been like, no man, no school, no, nothing, tell me I ain't worth it. I would hear it for a minute, maybe just believe it for just that a minute, but then use it to fire me up, get me going, use that anger, get me motivated, prove them wrong, hell yeah, show them I'm worth something, damn it. I can do this and a hell of a lot more. Just you wait and see. Porque esta poeta is coming back in full force. Ya no me voy a dejar, ya no me voy a dejar que me quiten lo que tengo en mi corazón. Pura pasión. My pops has been very made sure they don't make it.
I don't want to see her record. Unless she's defending me. Real quick announcement. There's going to be plenty of time after the program to go through the galleries. So they're going to allow that. So also there's also books and CDs for some of the readers and poets from today. You want to check that out. I've noticed that there's also a big trend that as poets enter here to the States, they're starting to get taller. I don't know if that's high enough to get through our lineup. The next, speaking about Zacatecas, the next poet was born in the small pueblo of Garcia de la Cadena in Zacatecas. He has a full collection of poetry, Touch the Sky, that will be published in May by El Martillo Press. So, got Martillo Press in the house. He teaches English composition, literature, and creative writing at Santa Ana College, and he's also taught Chicano studies. And he also has some self-published collections, and he has Cálculos de Lengua. I don't know if that's available. That might be available. I want to bring up another tall guy, Donato Martinez.
The Cheech, we're at the Cheech. Badass right here, you know, right? Thanks so much, Lilian, Esther, and Jorge for putting this on. I'm honored to be here. I'm in my hood, I'm from Riverside, I'm from Corona Riverside. Yeah, so do that. Okay. Let's see if this will stay. First of all, let me acknowledge the mothers that are in the house because we have Mexican Mother's Day on Wednesday, May the 10th. Happy Mother's Day, all. Felicidades, madres y todas las madres que están aquí. Nosotros. Que viva la raza! Que viva la raza! We're celebrating who we are tonight, right? Anytime you guys feel like, go like, ooh, you go, boy. Dang, girl. Go on there. Feel free, okay? This is your house. This is your house. Check my time. 7:19. Respect. Bump that shit. Make the windows rattle. Make the screen doors come off its hinges. Make the 911 emergency sirens go off. Make the neighborhood dogs bark like they see a cat. Make these cats stop in their tracks. Make teenage boys like my nephews rise from the video games to witness the ruckus. Make Wu-Tang ask who bring them a ruckus. Make old folks get up and dance. Talk their muscles and bones into moving like they haven't for years. Then quiver to the ground. Then make the flowers rise through the earth and break concrete above them. Rip through the glory to reach the sunshine. Make a loud scream. A testament to your survival. Make your next word mean something. Imagine that it's your last word and shout at the top of your lungs because it feels so damn good to scream about everything and about nothing. Make alcoholics gain those moments of clarity. Make sinners call on their knees for repentance. Make a new drug of words. Make people feed for another hit of that language, like scripture, like speaking in tongues. Bump that shit, dog. Let me hear that battle cry of the scream for help. The wail from a mother looking for her missing son, or the pain from a lover who abandoned you. Get to the depth of your pain and rage and sorrow and hurt and reveal and confess this new language of forgiveness and healing, a language full of love. Just say something, but say it like you mean it. There's a poem that I recently wrote. I was asked to read in March, and March is Women's History Month, International Women's Day in March, and so I wrote a poem in honor of that, in honor of all the independent and strong women that are among us, the mothers that raise us, grandmothers, right? Rick, give a round of applause for all of you strong, independent women. Okay? Absolutely, you know? I know that story about Adam and Eve, that woman was made out of the rib of Adam and molded with the clay. And I know that I know that that's probably not true, right? Okay, so, yeah. Shit, I'm just a rib from Adam, from the dirt. Crazy Diaz. To the woman who drives a truck, the windows are rolled down, her hair is flying all over the place, and Chavela Vargas is blasting through the speakers. To the woman who drinks beer out in the open, or who drinks whiskey or shots of tequila on Tuesday afternoons for no reason at all, just because the burn feels so good on her throat. To the same woman that stands on top of tables and dances with her teenage nephews and nieces. Her hips are swaying to the music, drink is still in her hand, she's never missing a beat or losing composure, while others stand, hands on their hips, with jealous stares. To the women who break barriers, cut off the ties of toxic masculinity, and shed the taboos of Mexican households. They said no to marriage, they said no to the church, and they said no to parents. To the women who curse, scream, and spit whenever they want. To the woman who left her man when he slept with a vecina. No forgiveness, no discussion, no questions asked. To the woman who left her abusive husband after one slap to the face, fresh marks on her cheek, and nothing but a small purse and her grandmother's sweater on her back. Feet are gliding, their belly touching the ground, and she's finally feeling like a feather, and there's no dead weight on her shoulders. To the woman who endured years of pain and suffering, of living with a man whom she does not love. To the women who have toiled the earth, raised crops, survived on their own. They gave birth to children who became painters and teachers. These women that have sacrificed for everyone else but themselves, their needs and desires are tucked into that tiny junk drawer. Who put their dreams on hold, but whose dreams remain tethered on the clothesline lingering, but they're ready to erupt like a furious volcano. To the prima that was catcalled, whistled, and harassed on the streets or in the grocery store while picking fruits and vegetables. The same prima that stops in her tracks, looks directly at this man, retorts, fights back because she is not afraid, not anymore. To the woman that no longer goes to children's birthday parties or baby showers and says no to family gatherings. Angie, ¿qué dirá la gente? To the woman who takes a puff of her cigarette slowly inhaling, followed with a long exhale that feels so good, followed by the inhale and exhale, and she repeats that time again. To the woman who buys flowers for herself, who dresses up or dresses down because she feels like it, because she finally has said yes to herself and said yes to loving herself first. To the comadre that likes chismes, but be careful what you say to her, for she will write poetry about you. The storyteller among us. To the berrinchudas, caprichudas, amalcriadas, hociconas, sin vergüenza, falto de respeto, hija de la llorona, women that give a shit to the women that don't take shit. So Jorge was talking earlier about this one poeta artista by the name of Jose Montoya, and I had this poem that I wrote, and in the epigraph or the dedication, it's dedicated to Jose Montoya, inspired by Louis. And it's called A Long Line of Pachucos, and so it's dedicated to his memory, and now in turn it's dedicated to Jorge Hernandez. Where you at, my man? Oh, there you are. A round of applause for Jorge. A Long Line of Pachucos. Creo en un solo vato, son of Pachuco Sur, who threw down with the serviceman. So hey, Noble Price Boss, give us peace, por favor, please. I do not want to enter your labyrinth. I hate solitude. You see, I know who I am. El vato de 4th Street, chavo, a smooth vato with a voice like a whisper. Gets down with some Friedman murals. Has a tecato for a carnal who drank his sorrows away in a dark cell in San Quentin after Penal Code 187. Dreams of the return of Coatzacoalco, un solo Dios creador de cielo y tierra, uvas y naranjas. They're picked by Chicano farm workers en los files de califas. His parents both worked the fields, skin becoming like roasted cacahuates. Hands are dry like leather, children of the 5th son. Faces are deep brown like the earth that they toil. That's him right there, with a clean white beater tucked into pleated khakis and a paño around his forehead. Hijo de un campesino who lost his primavera in the spring of 91 and became a man with the pretty daughter of the vieja, ciega from one eye. He kicks it down on Lemon and 8th with Spooky and Flaco, known as Homeboy Street or Pachuco Road, homies for life. The Judas nightmare, and nobody, I'm saying nobody fucks with that barrio. The barrio's named Dolores. History runs deep, long before grandfathers came home on horseback. They're celebrating the cosecha, savoring the frijoles, tortillas de maíz, chile rojo from the palate of their mouths, and shouts with shots of tequila for the defeat of the pinche cachupines. I'm talking long before big city street light corner malls where the hair salon or dry cleaner and Chinese fast food. Gentrification is trying to erase this barrio. Homies are just kicking it tonight at the park and the Highness cruise by. They want to party with the vatos, pues let's go, porque chingados, why not? Ultimamente we got shit to do on a Friday night. Nietos y abuelitas, wrapped up in reboses of 1,000 years, passed down like a generational quilt. It's first offered by Tonatin to an indigenous mother who makes the best flour tortillas. The children are taking them off the comal. They're spreading butter and sprinkles of salt. And the vatos and the hyenas cruise down the dark boulevard of the 69 Impala, the smoke-filled car. They're hiding the beers underneath the seat. The windows are rolled down and Brenton Wood is jamming through the speakers. Spooky's in the back seat. He's throwing a placazo on la Gina's thin neck. And Flaco, his eyes are squinting, head slowly moving. Blowing marijuana smoke out the window. He's spreading noticias of his existencia. And tonight, Chavo remembers his carnal up in San Quentin, who taught him about art and graffiti, and spilled wisdom about Aztec gods and goddesses, and pride in the barrio. And he told them, don't let the pinche gabachos take your shit. These vatos and the hyenas are cruising till the end of the night. They're stopping at no borders tonight. The coyotes are bringing down more brothers and sisters from the south side across to join them. No Mexican INS agents around. Fuck ICE. No wall cannot be scaled. Brothers and sisters are joining them. No fence can hold the sea back, and everything is female because this is their turf, and they are the OG Pachucos. Okay. How y'all doing today? You good? Hey, you got some fabulous poets coming up. Please don't leave. Couple of poets got books for sale. Stick around. Let's mingle. Let's socialize. Let's turn it up. You know, right? This place used to be the old spooky, musty library back in the days. And I used to come here to study. And now I'm reading poetry. Who would have thought that? You know what I'm saying? Because I was like 18, 19, 20, going to college, trying to find my way. And I came to this library, and it was spooky, and it was dark, and it felt like the ghostly spirit was around me, and now we're surrounded by beauty. So ain't that the shit, right? That's right. This is fresh. It's called If I Was God, I Would Visit the Hood. If I was God, I would visit the hood. If I was God, I would start in the hood. I don't know you've been told, but this motherfucking shit is getting old. But you know what you mean though? Why God? God, I thought you were my dog. I would turn the rundown projects and abandoned apartment complexes into playgrounds and basketball courts. Play tetherball and hopscotch all afternoon. I would convert empty parking lots into community centers, turn concrete blocks into works of art, have lunch programs every day, turn dirt lots into little league fields and gardens of beautiful flowers. No more urban decay. Stop turning street corners and parks into graveyards. No more funeral procession for victims of stray bullets. Let's replace obituaries into dictionaries. Let's replace cemeteries into libraries. Let's turn headstones into birthstones. Let's make rebirths of our mistakes and lies. Celebrate life and death. Let's not mourn over the loss, but smile with glee over the victories. Let's not make piles of generation of black and brown lives. Let's erase the trauma and begin to heal. Let's build colleges next to the hood. Let's build bridges and stop building prisons. All street vendors are allowed. Taco stands never get shut down. Free zone anytime. Patrol by our own. That means elotes, churros, bacon wrapped hot dogs, fruit cocktails anytime. We regulate ourselves. We keep watching our own 24 hours a day. We rotate shifts, even in the middle of the night. Gentrificators out. Placas out. Let the children stay up late on weekends in peace and freedom zones. From every corner, music will be blasted, bike riding, jump over it. Even lovers holding hands, scream nothings, late night strolling. Get back to flipping pages of comic books. Get back to trading baseball cards instead of coke for cash or favors for ass. Shit. I want some payphones back. God, I know you can make paradise. I know you can make a woman out of man, but have you visited the hood? I know you can touch the sky, but have you felt the earth? Seen a child smile? I'm waiting for you, God, to come to the hood. Thank you. I got 2 more left. I checked my time. I'm 7:31. All right. This poem is a celebration of who we are and the language we speak and, the words that we make up and all the things that we hear from the house to the the streets and the barrios and things like that. It's called speaking in tongues. My native tongue curls around when trying to find space for a new language in my mouth. I stumble across metaphors and similes while my Nahuatl vernacular hangs on to my Spanish-speaking pueblo. This new language imprisons my ancestors' survival, but I'm a she and a he. I'm a dark and a white, I'm mestizo picadillo, so I invent a wicked and strange language. Crunchy cacahuate shells are strewn on dirt driveways. Muchachas, guaraches, hopscotch on light chalk squares on sidewalkless streets. Orale vatos locos crouch old school style with secret drinks inside paper sacks. Dropping liquor and street wisdom to young schoolboys. The acid grandmothers, they pass down recipes of the finest and the most delicious tamales and mole nopales as gifts to the Mexicana mothers. Hovering over pots of brewing frijoles, turning and rotating homemade maize tortillas, and they burn their fingers on the jacomales. The chavalos and mocosillos make burritos de sal y mantequilla. Mothers sew and stitch old sweaters into place. Iron patch on holy knees of Levi's pants handed down from their older brothers. They clean the bruised knees and scrape the elbows of hijitos falling from his bicycle. They spit shine their children's hair before rides on the school bus. Grandfather sliced oranges with red pocket knives while storytelling, like my grandfather, Papa Donato, about el teve. They have conversation about árboles and arroyos bien chingones y caballos bien finos. They complain about pinches tíos borrachos, buenos para nada que ni vale 70 chingadas. About el pinche gallo que no me dejaba dormir en la mañana. They retell stories about mujeres bien preciosas cuando era joven, about the time que perdió su primavera in the back of the church, right next to the old viejita's house. These oral tales, they weave the past, the present, and the future together in cyclical time. The hot sun disappears into a lovely evening of purple serenata colors, and the guitar strings serenade la viuda joven que mataron a su esposo en el norte. The same night when the pinche chota from Riverside pulled me over porque me vio muy quickly y me dio un pinche tiquete porque las brecas de mi troca no sirven. Because my jefe's troca está bien vieja. Grandmothers, they weep in heavy breaths. Their long life of curing fever, sarampión y viruelas with their magical curandera hands. They slice their own varicose veins con el mismo cuchillo que cortan las cebollas. They collect the blood in tin cups and they finger rosaries prayer after prayer por la Virgen María Tonantzin. So his nephew crosses the migra checkpoint safely, para que le den trabajo, para que guarde dinero y que se lo mande a su señora que está embarazada. This Chicano tongue is more complex than French kissing. I'm serious. As I stumble on sloppy saliva, trying to fit these new words in my mouth, a forced Spanish, bien chucky, mucho, the grade school learn English, barrio street vernacular, pocho, talking bits and pieces of talking shit. I speak in tongues I created. It is wicked and strange, and you know what? I don't need to apologize, and I'll say translate for y'all. This is my last piece, a quick one. Check my time. All right, I got 1 minute. That shit was like perfect, huh? Thank y'all for coming out. Want to thank all my brothers and sisters and my mom that's here, and also some students that came all the way from Santana, my colleagues all the way from Santana. Yeah. There's people that have came from the Bay Area. You're gonna hear this poem all the way from the Bay Area, so you don't want to leave. All right, here's my last piece. Any of you guys love hip hop? Love hip hop? Yeah. Hey, raise your hand, wave it in the air. Wave it like you just don't care. All right, you got clean underwear? All right, good. I'm coming in hard like I never left again. Fever relentless like I'm cheating again. Back on my grind, I give it up again. Fierce for my God like a hooligan. Friend of my foe don't even matter, I isolate both of them. I'm scribbling notes till my hand aches again. 10 toes stuck under the earth, I'm reborn again. Kissing my children like they newborn again. I'm giving props to my moms and my pops, I want to be old like them. I'm feeding for life like in love again. I want to touch your flesh like the first time again. If your hustle's not real, you lose it again. I'm back on my bike touching newspapers again. I'm cutting lawns on the weekends like I'm 12 again. I'm stocking alcohol like I'm 15 again. I'm frying some chicken like I'm 16 again. I'm picking grapes in the summer. It was so hot back then. I'm a paycheck away from moving back home again. Do you know what it's like to be poor again? I can't handle the news of friends losing their life again. Let the kings and the queens from the hood rise again. Give them the flowers like they're young again. Make pots of pozole and cold nights again. Bring their cousins and aunts and all of them. Stay up all night till the cock crow again. I'm on the down low, but low key. I want to be high profile like all of them. Doing art for the love, but I want to be rich like JC and them. No shame in any of this shit again. Y'all lying and not desiring the same thing like them. I'm writing for diamonds for his verses like spin again. The pen is my sword, I slay dragons and haters and all of them. I'm feeling relentless, a fire's in my chest again. I can't be complacent again. This is my testament. I'm biblical. I'm resurrected again. Thank you very much. Hey, how about a round of applause for Mr. Darren De Leon, the MC of the night. Nadia Slam, you know what's up?
Whoa. All right. The Poesia, we got to make sure that we keep it to that 15 minutes. We got a security guard here. I give it the signal. He does that. Don't want to get arrested on it. Stay. All right, our next poet, I hope he's not taller, is the current poet laureate of Pomona. We'll be graduating very, very soon at Cal Poly Pomona with a degree in sociology. There we go. We're at the graduation season right now. He's a writer in residence of Cafe Con Libros Press and the founder of the Obsidian Tongues Open Mic. He writes through the sociological lenses of a blue-collar worker and is the author of God of the Airbows and other blue-collar poems, due to be released this year on Del Martillo Press. Welcome, Cesar K. Avalon.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no need to call us security. I'll keep my time. Y'all will help me. So yeah, like you said, I do my best to bring the fabrica to wherever I am artistically. So if y'all know someone that is a factory worker, jornalero, all of that stuff, just show them a little bit of love and tell them, see them, hey, I'm you got their backs, okay? So this is called La Paleta. Even in ugly days, beautiful when you got money. Children from the neighborhood run to their parents when the paletero man yells, paletas, paletas. But not my son. At least not today. Today we had to watch Sesame Street with the volume up at full blast just to not hear the enticing yells of raspados, elotes, paletas. His cries shake the inner fibers of my soul. His sadness cuts deep and beyond the scar tissues of my identity. So now what? Now what, Uncle Sam? You take away jobs, I find ways to get money. You raise tuition and I find ways to obtain an education. My back is wet because you've soaked it in stigma. You keep punching and I move forward. You give me your best shot and still can't put me down. Without any money, all I can do is think and read and dream, and I've come to the conclusion that you owe us a future, and my son, an ice cream. And just a super special thank you to all of y'all fathers that are down and are there for their kids, man, because that's important. So muchas gracias. And for all the mothers that put up with our toxic ass shit, thank you. This is called the backbreaker. Just by any chance, just to put it out there. I don't know if y'all know, but in a factory, you will get in trouble if you help someone because you didn't go to break on time. So you are stripped from that right of being a good person. Just wanted to say that. The clock is ticking, the workload is piling up, and the elderly man who covers me on break looks at my area like it's a hammer waiting to crack his own back. He nods his head with an accepting smile, then says, yes, lunch, mis Cesarín, it's lunchtime, Big C's, but how can I leave this man with so much work? How can I work up an appetite knowing the situation is wrong? So I say, déjeme limpiarla aquí de volada, para que no se le haga tanto. Let me clean this up real quick so it won't be so much. He looks at me, grabs his back, says, hijo, eres buena persona. Son, you are a good person. 5 minutes later, I go on break. My supervisor is watching, his slave tongue salivating. My first warning is waiting to be given to me in a colonial language that I will always refuse to speak or even understand. And here I am, getting in trouble for being a man, a human being, a heartbeat pounding in a corporate place where sentimientos are erased, where humanity is ripped from your spirit with just one swipe of a time card and just one wink of a laughing clock's wicked eye. In these moments, the souls of our people die. Why? Because our work is slavery's modern face. We have become the hammer that breaks our own people's stained and stigmatized backs. We have become the vibration of railroad tracks, the quota that must be met, the food of a money system that is spit, chewed, and thrown away. And today we became the forbidden tears that started in the break room and ended in the history of forever. All right, this is super dedicated to everybody that deserves more money, but you get like a gift card or like a top promotion. You know what I'm saying? This is called Green Flame Tacos. On the lunchroom wall hangs a poster that grows a pair of lips and spits in my face. Its words become green phlegm dripping down my eyebrows and cheeks, landing on my forehead as I eat. Their words say, "We would like to thank our production staff for the taco lunch for working determinedly for many consecutive days. So join us and keep up the good work." These words create a hatred so deep that my existence becomes a rope hanging on the trembles of my jaw. I guess with these tacos, my family will get back Daddy wasn't home. I guess my son's feeling of neglect will disappear with just one splash of red onions and salsa. Maybe his homework will get undone and time will retract and I will come home on time to be a good father. Or maybe for these tacos, I am to be grateful to a company that makes millions a week and gives us a lunch instead of a raise. Maybe I'm just supposed to accept this lunch with all its strings attached to my arms and legs. Maybe I'm just supposed to stay quiet, benevolent, and not think of capital while living in a world that requires it to live. The taco truck arrives. No one feels the punch in the stomach. No one feels the spit on the forehead. No one feels the gravel under our feet turn into repeated cycles of lies. Every mouth begins to freely talk. Every mule begins to laugh. Everything remains the same. Should I forget that I am a man? Should I join this choir of ashes? Should I live the day of donkey? Should I give into these diversions of double tortillas to fill me up so I can hurry healing and hawing back to work? Somehow these tacos seem like a joke, where the only one who isn't laughing is me. This one is called God of the Air Holes. God of the air holes, touch my forehead and open my third eye. Bless my future instead of keeping it captive. Take my hands and rejuvenate them. Take my feet and show them the best way out this cage of a maze. In every crevice of wrinkled time around my eyes, I feel your pulse, gyrating through the stories made of white streaks on an overbleached wall, revealing truths hidden deep in the hunger of imagination, showing time as a spiral that never stops being thrown. Please, God of the air holes, send me a blessing so deep to make my gray hairs become the speed of progress that turns age into a cocoon of a butterfly whose wings become stones that write messages from the future. Please, God of the air holes, blow me a kiss, one that makes my world become eyes that can find the best way out this factory. So, there's always something at work that makes you feel good, even when you're having a shitty day. And this is my feel-good guy. You know? He's the janitor. My pops was a janitor, so I've always had a special connection to janitors. But this brother is always singing, no matter what, and he has a dope-ass voice. You know what I mean? And yeah, so this is dedicated to them. It's called El Prisionero. In the restroom, he is always singing. He is the janitor, the cleaner of hallways and toilets, the cleanser of soul and healer of minds. He sings boleros, corridos, and classic rancheras. His voice is a bird of sacred plains soaring through the valleys of broken people, crying in the highest peaks of our starving imaginations. He sings a song called El Prisionero, a song so powerful, a voice so free, that sound of medicine, of sacred herbs floating through the air and healing wounds of confined people's emotions. I know this song. We are all this prisoner, this filth of reality, this open note that spins love and labor into a song. He is more than a janitor. He is a healer, a sacred voice that has brought life back to a people who have forgotten who they are, and most of all, forgotten how to sing. That concludes my set, but I would just love for everyone to please go visit these books, and I would just want to give a big round of applause for all these poets that I feel like I made a special connection with them. And please go to my open mic, Obsidian Tongues open mic in Pomona. Muchas gracias.
I like that. He actually came in under 15 minutes. Yes, nice. First of all, before we move on, it started getting like a locker room in here with all these dudes coming up here. So we're gonna be scooping that up now. But first of all, I just want to send out a thank you to a couple of folks, the organizers, Mr. Blue, where's Jorge at? And Lilia. And also Los Cinco, which I think is like this a set of financiers. Russell Howdicky, Luis Lopez, Luis Aguilar, Ricardo Canedo, and Jorge C. Hernandez. Also want to thank the Latino Network, and of course the Cheech, and Zacatecas for the food, and also you can follow Ocura Collantes on Instagram.
Yes.
Want to thank them too. Tomorrow is the Vinyl and Rides that starts up at noon. There's going to be 2 or 3 blocks of Ranflas all parked out here beginning at noon tomorrow. Vinyl, I'll be doing the first set of vinyl. 7-inch funk, 78 to 81. All right. Okay, so our next reader and presenter is the author of Spider-Woman, La Mujer Araña, and the recipient of the Tomas Rivera Book Award in 2021, and the International Latino Book Awards 2022 for her novel, Dreaming with Mariposas. She's currently a finalist for the book Into Movie Awards. Presently, she is working on her bilingual poetry collection, Paper Birds, Feather by Feather, and her first illustrated book, The Adventures of a Burrito Flying Saucer. I want to bring up to the stage Sonia Gutierrez.
Buenas tardes, ¿cómo están? Hey, how are you? Tired? You wanna get up and stretch a little? You're like, no? Okay. All right, so I wanna begin with a poem to honor the woman that gave birth to me. Notes on the Holy Ghost and her atheist daughter, Ama. Promise me when you die, you will return and talk to me. I request months before a tall sequoia tree with long emaciated branches elongates her last breath. When I'm finally ready, I call out, Mama. And the laptop turns on. I talk with you, floating electrical current who flickers lights. We talk for about 10 minutes. I say my goodbyes. Gracias, mamá, por tomarte el tiempo para hablar conmigo. Mother always on point, the laptop turns off. 2, you are a looming light, emitting soft, gentle tinkers above the glass bowl holders. Who knew your presence could make such sweet sounds even in spirit? How do you do that? Are you holding an invisible fork? 3, you are already in the room when Father returns to celebrate you. He opens the guest room and you turn off the lights on the whim. I tease Dad. Es mi mamá. ¿Qué hiciste para que te apagara la luz? 4. Queen of the Simlasuchi, on your day, family comes from distant places to be with you, our holy ghost. The tamales and champurrado are ready. Come and eat. Oh, please don't hide behind the white columns. We are all here waiting with our bony faces. 5. Around here, in front of your bedroom window, your green thumb is still present in the earth. Outside, a thorny rose bush blooms the heaviest of reds. Mother, you look so majestic dressed in deep green foliage. In dreams, wearing a crown of flowers and obsidian face, you tell me, your atheist daughter, Dios te ilumine, hija. And so then I'm going to read to you. All of those passages are based on true stories. That's my mom in spirit. So I have never seen a love so profound that I witnessed growing up with my mom and my dad. And this is also based on another spiritual experience, red ink. Si tú mueres primero, yo te prometo. Julio Jaramillo, nuestro juramento. A few minutes ago, my Lola came. She was here. I felt her presence like a warm sarape over my body, and its colors, like rays of light, filled my heart. In the room where our bodies perfumed and flowered our nights, she herself turned on the music with her cry. My Lola visited me, so together we could listen to the guitar, the words, and the moaning of our song. And then the walls and the saints remembered our kisses, our caresses. I am happy. My Lola was here. We kept our promise, and oh, how I appreciate her visit. So she could see that I took the red pen and remembered our oath. Si tú mueres primero, yo te prometo. Escribiré la historia de nuestro amor con todo el alma llena de sentimiento. La escribiré con sangre, con tinta sangre de corazón. When morning comes, I wrap balloons. It doesn't matter if it's spring or fall, summer or winter. I suck the blue marrow from the lakes, the sky, and the oceans. At midday, I slurp yellows. The sunflower and daffodil broth disappear from my chick talavera bowl as I ripen into greens. Green my hair, green my nose, green my winged arms, green my thumbs, green my soul, floating in a room. For dinner, I eat reds. Red peppers, red toasted, red ochre hands on a wall, the reddest of burning sunsets. I drink, and before sleeping, I drink a warm turquoise atole. Then night enters through the window, and all the colors fall asleep, while I wait patiently for the flame headdress to sneak in and awaken the canvas of my senses. So this next poem that I want to share with you. This next poem that I want to share with you, I knew that when I would show up to Francisco Alarcon's funeral that I couldn't show up empty-handed. So I'm a poet. It takes forever to write poems, but somehow I made it happen, like 1 or 2 days, and I wrote this poem, and then later I translated, and then later, this is a Spanish translation of Francisco Bustos, and I actually love his translation more than my poem. So I'm gonna read it to you. Poema Giver, para Francisco X Alarcón. In my waking sueños, poema giver, you rise sobre sábanas blancas de papel, rain is always to write. Donde el cielo sky is filled with luminous letter words, y con tus manos las amasas, y haces cielo, clouds, miro poemas, y después descansas, y sube los escalones up, a gigantic capital letra Y laughing and smiling te vas down. It slides con open arms, and that is, así pasarás los days de January, los days de February, y los days de March. Meanwhile, por las mañanas mis lágrimas, they run down my face. Luna, moon mirror, pero happy. Porque huele a poetry. Sometimes we enter a dark hole, and I mean a sadness, and you remember your parents' teaching, your mother's teachings, and it's so incredible how sometimes we forget those details, and we should never forget that. Rising Rosa. A tiny little rose with swirling yellows and reds, standing 7 inches tall, woke up this morning to tell me, breathe deeply when your head hangs low. And when you forget the smell of a tiny little rosita like me, breathe deeper. Last week, my petals were caught in a downpour, and today, the sun with its long fingertips turned life's muggy colors into a cobalt blue. So, this poem, you know how it is to live in this racist, systemic shit that we live in the United States. So as we know, I had gotten bad news, and then, I was invited to teach creative writing at Chicano Studies at San Diego State, and this poem came to me as I was walking through the elevator doors. Doors. There are doors that open on their own, but there are other doors that even though they are crumbling, they are locked under invisible triple locks. Their keys are at the bottom of the ocean floor, surrounded by white sharks. Those doors do not attempt to open on whims or with blows. Instead, roll up your sleeves, build doors with paints and brushes, nails and a hammer, or with the magic wand of your imagination. And one day, you will suddenly see foundations with friendly doors greet you. You will enter, turn back, and see from afar those ancient doors only have a few borrowed centuries left. There you go, white supremacy. I was listening to Broadway and Orlando Martinez, and we were debating here which one I was going to read. The books, that was the Época SB 1070, or what would it be like if a Chicana wrote about Adam and Eve? So I want to give you that gift. Okay. So, cuento de hadas, fairy tale. 1. When Eve had one eye and no breast, and Adán had no testicles, in the garden, peacock of feathers and blue, weekly poetry warm. You can eat all the apples you wish, but don't you dare come near the mango avocado, banana, and chirimoyo trees. Weeks before, she gave him his back and said he'd be back. Eve stared at Adon's eyes. Adon stared at her eye. They roamed for 12 moons and got quite bored eating golden Washington apples all day. What a bore, thought Adon with acento. 2. One day, Adon went fishing at a different fishing spot and smelled a familiar smell. He grabbed a branch, wrapped his legs, pushed down with his left foot, and pulled his body up with his left arm. He sat propped up on the mango tree, and the smell of skin, meat, flesh consumed with vertigo had never tasted anything quite like it. What a bore, those apples. No wonder Whitney Porchley said to eat as many rotten apples as we please, he thought, as he took the last lick of his pinky finger. Whitney would never find out, and he took 2 more for Eve. On the other side of the garden, Eve looked at the calla lilies, their protruding yellow pistils. Near the purple hydrangea, she spotted a yellow banana tree that reminded her too much of the calla lilies. She pulled down the giant green leaves and grabbed a small canoe-like banana and swallowed it in one bite. Weekly, Porchley, and Adon would never find out she ate it. There was no guilt. As Eve walked back, she spotted a tall avocado tree. She took one, would spread its insides on tortilla leaves. She prepared her molcajete salsa and ate avocado with delight all by herself. The next day, Eve and Adon woke up to find skin, meat, and flesh. Eve had grown 2 mangoes, and Adon had grown 2 avocados and a chiquita banana between his legs. So Eve went on yet another walk and found a chirimoyo tree. She was repelled by the toad-like fruit. Her tongue went right through the peel and devoured skin, meat, and flesh, and accidentally swallowed a round brown seed. Eve came home with 2 eyes. Adon stared at her, his body contorted and changed shapes. Weekly Porchley had cursed Adon by Eve. Out of nowhere, Weekly Porchley came around the corner. He foamed, salivated, and smiled. You have tasted from the chirimoya, from the mango, from the banana, and from the avocado trees. This is good. I really did time myself, so I'm trying not to look for them. Okay, so if I don't find it, so this is Game of Mariposas, and I apologize to the poets for this. I'm just going to read a little bit of the prose. So, Dreaming with Aurora. Ay, qué bonito es volar a las 2 de la mañana, a las 2 de la mañana. Ay, qué bonito es volar, ay, mama. It was November, in the time of memories and dreams. She wore her long black hair down over her shoulders. It was November, the time of ay, llorona, 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 llévame al río. Tápame con tu rebozo, llorona, porque me muero de frío.
Get there. I just want to check in real quick with that Adam and Eve. So there's this body laying down. the creator goes in there, gets a rib, and brings out another life. That don't make sense if that's Adamson. The women know what I'm talking about. Okay, the next reader, poet, writer that we have with us is the co-editor of the anthology Red Flag Warning, Northern California's Living with Fire, out on Heyday Books in next year in 2024. She writes about family, culture, and surviving climate change disasters, and is the author of the short story collection Raft, the chapbook Burn Scars, and soon to be released, the Daughterland Poems. I'd like to bring to the stage Margaret Alicia Garcia.
Thank you. Thank you so much to the Cheech for hosting us. Thank you so much for all the poets who have read already. And these aren't my climate change poems, but those are over there in the book store. There's my plug. I'll start this out how I start out a lot these days, especially when I wrote this book during COVID. It's called A Search. It took 4 months and 3 days to not find a therapist. I wanted a Latina therapist, so I wouldn't have to explain those things that set me on edge. The sweet white husband comes with a white noise mother-in-law, always attempting to conquer, just like our neighborhood. I wanted a Latina therapist who got all that, so we could just go on to discuss everything else. But no one takes my insurance or any insurance anymore, Latina or otherwise. And my kid didn't actually die, and my house didn't actually burn. I am no one's emergency, no one's 911. So I buy the biggest red cowboy boots I can find, the biggest earrings I can find, and wear them while silently making dinner, playing out those imaginary sessions in my mind. And this goes out, I don't know that she made it back here yet. It was just as well. I always get nervous when family's around at readings, because I try hard to say, oh, I never write about you, but this totally right. Absolutely right. But this goes out, the next couple of poems go out to my cousin Michelle, because I was living up north and she's the one that stayed with our grandfather the most. It's called Spanish. He's finishing his last sentences in Spanish. He never spoke it with us. Saved it for drinking buddies and brothers, for secrets and music. It was the language of his birth, self, derision. But no children, grandchildren were going to be denied bathrooms and bank loans because a different language brought by different conquerors brought us down. He spoke a wry sort of English, limited, under his breath, and did not seem to mind that we turned pocha y pocho as we came out, derided as we are by these people called real Mexicans who want their American hyphenated or not at all. But my grandmother doesn't remember English now. Spanish from the hospice bed stings the ear in its sweet exclusionary sound, a lilt of yet one last example of all the distance between us. Thank you. My mother thinks absolutely everything I write is about her. I write fiction as well, so if there's a mother character, I'm screwed. Always thinks it's her. So So I wrote one about her. And she knows it, and she likes it. This is called Conditioning. I cannot sleep in the summer heat of her house, where a button on the wall beneath a portrait of Our Lady of Guadalupe would bring relief. Don't you dare touch it, my mother says. Air conditioning is for the rich and the weak. In her house, I attempt to sleep with ice packs and damp rags and sweat the way women my age turn and toss off even a threadbare sheet. I offer to pay these mythic electric bills we've never actually seen. My mother is disappointed in me. Jaw clenched, I daydream of sleep in cool hotel rooms by the ocean, waves rocking me to sleep. My mother says her mixed children need too much comfort. She points to Our Lady on the wall and commands me to endure. As if climate control was some unattainable luxury, like the privilege of my father's skin. So, I get mad at Joe Biden like all the time. Because he always says something stupid. Dude, I have to vote for you. You have to make it so hard. It's called History Lesson. The president said Latinx aren't getting vaccinated because we fear documentation and deportation, demoralization. My ex-department chair says, don't you all realize you're just farm workers? They will say the quiet parts loud. They will tell you that we don't mean you. They will say, funny, you don't look. Being Mexican is actually a mathematical equation. Indigenous plus European plus African equals mestizo equals Mexican equals North American. In 1912, Severo Garcia Vargas bought the train ticket to Laredo, met up with Indios y Nufo Morenos de Lagos, got work in the silver mines of Arizona. Silver mine Indians were a thing for 3 centuries in and around Zacatecas, but you're still looking for someone to do your lawn for cheap outside Home Depot, so you don't know that. In 1918, Carmen de Luna Calera bought 6 tickets to El Paso for her and her children, posed as a widow, though her husband was very much alive, but on a trip to New York with another one of his women. Carmen's husband, Jose Maria Ocampo, a drunk and a dick who smelled of homemade liquor, returned to Aguas Calientes to find his whole family, much of his money and his best chandelier gone. Carmen held grudges against her parents and the priest for marrying her off at 14 to a drunken landowner twice her age and didn't say goodbye. Draped Our Lady of Guadalupe on her new kitchen wall and called it enough. Maybe you see where this is going. The man from the Black Lagoon and the pale lady of the moon shacked up one Arizona evening under the stars. Then everyone fell for the California dream of reinvention. By 1923, Carmen and Severo bought a 2-bedroom clapboard house in eastern Los Angeles by the lush green banks of the San Gabriel River in cash. Now, 7 children grew up and out of the house. Red roses lined Carmen's front yard, and she took pride in being the first family in the block with a washing machine. First one with a TV. Severo hung the chandelier which caught the light and made the tiny dining room sparkle. A kid down the street got polio. Everyone got their shots. Or maybe you don't see where this is going. It's not all wading through rivers and desert sand. It is no turning back. It is the variable of individual stories. It is not lump sums. Carmen read revolutionary Mexican poetry written by a woman from her hometown to my mother from her wicker chair on the backyard patio. Severo drove his family into Hollywood for movies or the beaches on weekends. The neighbors called Carmen Doña, brought their children to her when they were sick and to play in her garden. Severo gave all the visiting children candy. In 1954, Doña Carmen, who could read and write in 3 languages, became a U.S. citizen, my mother coaching her studies. In 1974, Severo Elio died without citizenship, the written test proving too difficult for a miner turned construction worker, turned blind from diabetes, who had never once seen a school. But you know what? They weren't afraid of vaccines. So I'm from Whittier. Or Whittier as we call it. My grandfather's voice sounds normal today, full of accent, and mija. And his teeth are next to the bathroom sink. Alzheimer's has him, dances with them, like the people who aren't there, who he sees on the hallway, the kitchen, and sitting on top of his bed like demons. Play along, you won't be here long. I always mean to stay longer, but it's raining in Los Angeles. It could get biblical and flood. I drive east from the city to my grandfather's house, over the bridges and their trickle spits of water. We retreat, my grandfather to his mind and me to mine, and we take turns petting his cat. He doesn't ask about the kids or ask me to sing to him anymore. In the part of his bed where he lives, I am childless, voiceless, and today I am his sister. Once I was his mistress, and once I was no one at all. I back out his driveway to the slow, constant fall of LA rain. It's peaceful, this rain, unfamiliar. I want to miss him when he's gone. I make the on-ramp and breathe oil and water on the asphalt, see the color pooling in the toxic rainbow puddles. I head west back to the city, over the river and through the traffic, ready to be drenched in any LA myth but my own. Thank you.
Thank you. So one thing. I have this little small collection. These are one-page poems, I call them. Between now and the end of the evening, if you come and show me a library card, I'll give you one of these for free. But he's not children friendly. I'll give you that warning. Okay, so our next reader came down from San Francisco, is an artist of Mexican and Cuban American heritage that has built a national reputation for interview-based theater and bilingual spoken word. He integrates Latino and indigenous healing practices to tell the stories of real people impacted by immigration and systematic inequalities. His first book of poetry, We Still Be, will be published by Al Martillo Press. There's a young man here by the name of Norman. Norman, can you just raise your hand? Norman right there. Me and Norman met in 1996 doing open mics in San Francisco. I had this crazy idea about wanting to have crazy punk rock poetry, political poetry over Afro-Cuban beats as we danced on stage and recited our poetry. We did that for quite a few months as Dos Delicados. So we had the good and the bad. What we needed was the ugly. That's where our next reader comes in. He is also one of the members of Los Delicados and also one of the founders of You Speaks, if anyone knows about that. Amazing. One of the hardest working artists, writers, poets that I know, and also a beautiful father. Amazing man. I want to bring up to the stage Paul S. Flores. Levántate a trabajar, José, la calle que corta tu ves. Después vamos a comer arroz con frijoles, un bulla café, arroz con pollo, a fin de año, yuca con mojo, cerveza, para todo el vecindario. Levántate a trabajar, José, la calle que corta tu ves. Después vamos a comer arroz con frijoles, un bulla café, arroz con pollo, a fin de año, yuca con mojo, cerveza, para todo el vecindario. Come to my house for dinner, mi hermano. Estamos cocinando arroz con pollo, tostones, frijoles negros. We'll have antojitos on red mantos, mojitos to brighten your mente with mint. Tune your ear to clave, clap on your lap, like being on time, like ajo and lime on everything. We will greet you with the scent of warm olive oil and garlic, roasted red and green pepper, sauteed in cumin, onion, and oregano. The aroma will pimp your appetite, make you want to pasear, chat at the lip of a ventana, feel the coquettish breeze, admire palm leaves that wave like sábanas in the wind. Ahora sí, acerete invito a mi casa, plantains mashed by hand, rub like fingers over a cajon. We use paper, not a tostonera, because we like tostones thin. Black beans soaking overnight, softening to your taste, so sweet with red wine, vinegar, and rum that they even simmered in the manga of Orquesta Aragon. Come to my house for dinner, mi hermano, seguro que we won't disappoint you. Tonight, estamos cocinando arroz con pollo, estilo cubano. So delicious, so exquisite, so perfect. Because we make this dish a reflection of our soul. Golden, rice moist but not wet. Con guisantes and Spanish chorizo, roasting, frying, baking, ese chicken rubbed with paprika. Para que te pica, spice in the bite, sharp and crisp como café. Después de una siesta, awake in the taste and textures. Open your palate like windows open on humid green mountainsides. Calm. Share the table with us. Savor the cuisine. Hay ambiente. Must be a celebration. I wrote this poem to be like an invitation. So bring your mother. Bring your brother. You could bring your lover. Because this is a meal you will want to remember. Okay. My birthday, so everybody's buying me shots. Shots. 50 years old. Been around a long time. It's always beautiful to see La Raza come together for poetry. Been to many of these, but it's good to see the people after us come up. They're not the kind of like around the same age as me, so, but I like all the young folks coming up. Yes, you are young. Yes, you are young. Beautiful, wonderful poetry. This next poem is for a gentleman named Jeffrey Canada, who started the Harlem Children's Zone, as well as a man named Luis Rodriguez, who wrote Always Running. This is two people who inspired this poem. It's called Gravity's Volume. I work in East Oakland. I carry a briefcase and code switch for a paycheck, pushing black and brown equity at meetings with deputy superintendents, regional task forces, and symposiums on structural racism and violence prevention. I be in these meetings talking about systems. The gravity of black boys in these systems is nothing like Newton's apple. The gravity is more like the Grim Reaper's sickle. Maybe that's why the street signs in East Oakland sometimes look like tombstones. 1 in 3 will be incarcerated. 7 out of 10 will recidivize. 25% survive on $10,000 a year. Half won't graduate high school. 35% are unemployed. 16 times more likely than white boys to die from homicides. The gravity. For the first time ever in Oakland, Latinos are the majority in public schools. We have the highest birth rates, eclipse all ethnicities in the state, but severely disproportionate to graduation rates. Schools be hostile like the Alamo. No translation services. Mama's request to speak to the principal falls on monolingual ears. Wait here, please. Her cultura held hostage by bankrupt state policies and disrespected by an incompetent curriculum and culturally chauvinistic administrators. She becomes deaf to the system. Her babies cry for attention by waving gang signs. The volume. I be in these meetings talking about systems. I'm often the only Latino in a room full of black friends. And if someone decides to call me hermano, ask me what Latinos think of Obama, or where can they get the best steak burrito in Oakland, I say that steak is carne asada. I tell them, go to El Ojo de Agua taco truck on Fruitvale Avenue, because I represent my raza. It's what we all want to do, represent. Then I say, the volume is rising. Listen, we've been saying the same thing for 10 years. The system is a placebo, an inertia, apathetic. I even busted poems in these meetings. But all I hear is business cards dancing on gravity. The fact is, black boys are at the bottom of every measure of success. Every standard of achievement, every level of society. If the gravity of their situation don't move you to do something different, then the volume of brown demographics are gonna hit you like a tsunami. So when we say black and brown unity, what could we be talking about? Is it our issues with good hair and bad hair? Pelo bueno, pelo malo. Do we all just need to learn to speak American? America. 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 Yes, the continent. The first African free pueblo. The first African free pueblo in the hemisphere was founded and named after Yanga, an African prince freed slave in Veracruz, Mexico in 1609. Mexico's second president, Vicente Ramon Guerrero, was an African Mexican who abolished slavery in 1829. During the U.S.-Mexican War of 1848, Mexicans refused to force runaway slaves back to their U.S. slave masters, and so Mexico lost half her territory. Mexican and African, black and brown, these brothers enjoy a rich legacy of alliance, but we don't teach that in school. So we don't celebrate that in the workplace. And black and brown don't see each other as equal. In 1965, African Americans celebrated the Voting Rights Act that ended Jim Crow prerequisites to vote. At the same time, Chicanos began the delayed grape strike. And for the first time, Mexican Americans grabbed the national spotlight. Today, there are more than 200 public schools, 500 streets throughout the country named after Martin Luther King Jr. and Cesar Chavez. Still, every February, Latinos learn civil rights were invented by a black man's dream. And Cesar Chavez, who was born in Arizona, Cesar Chavez must struggle to be seen above the Bud Light girls, celebrating Cinco de Mayo must struggle to be seen above the Bud Light girls celebrating Cinco de Mayo and the hateful speech dividing the country over illegal immigration. So when I hear undocumented scapegoated as a threat to African-American livelihood, the problem is not just the lack of mutual respect. There is a financial interest invested in our lack of understanding of each other. Who is who? What's my name? Is brown the new black? It's not about who owns the bottom. It's who's got my back. Who represents me? Latinos in New York will tell you. Afro-Cubanos will tell you. Los Ratas will tell you. Ship Soledad O'Brien, Daddy Yankee will tell you. Know the soul of Black Peru. Mixed with indigenous like Tupac Amaru. Know that Africans are immigrants in Oakland and Los Angeles too. Know our common history. The interdependence of black and brown is a reality now in Oakland, San Francisco, Salinas, Los Angeles. At every level, black and brown need to be at the same table, representing and leading like Yanga, like Guerrero, like Martin, like Cesar. If we are all going to thrive together, if we're all going to thrive and represent, then we need to ride together.
Speak, poet, speak.
I always think that's important to bring up when I'm in a room full of Chicanos, because I do the same thing when I'm in a room full of African Americans. It's got to go both ways. We have to learn to work together. The potential for that solidarity is endless. It's beautiful, but we got to figure it out. And working in Oakland, in the Bay Area, I've learned a lot about that. And really fortunate to have worked with a lot of leaders in the Black and brown community, trying to build this unity, trying to save young people from the prison system, trying to get people jobs, trying to get people to graduate, trying to find opportunities. It doesn't help in silos. It doesn't work when it's just one community doing it and another trying to battle for the same resources. It never works. You gotta figure that out. This last poem I'm gonna do is about the fathers. It's called Forefathers. It's about forefathers in my family, including myself. When I was 9 years old, my mother decided to marry a man with a red beard. Abuelo Enrique said, never trust a man with a beard. Could be hiding something. Cortez had a beard. You remember what happened to Othello, don't you? I kept looking for signs of insincerity, but never saw more than my stepfather's Viking grin. It was a staple of his old-time personality. He loved working on old roadsters and drinking Jack Daniels more than me or my mother. 4 years later, we left the trim suburbs for a 2-bedroom apartment, Chef Boyardee and Coin Laundry on Sunday. I never asked my mother why we gave up financial security, a house with 2 stories. I guess she figured out what the truth about I guess she figured out the ugly truth about the bearded Viking. And I had to decide, was I going to grow a beard or not? My own father was a phantom, a wannabe philosopher, who only called when he was inspired. He wrote dense letters packed like cigarettes with epistemology that burned my image of a man into an ashtray. He was not an Indian, but he still couldn't grow a beard or a bank account to save his life. One day, your acquaintances might only be the people who serve you drinks. You will smell like old newspaper and damp corduroy, and you will be held to account You will only be held to account for your poetic solitudes by your fatherless insecurities. Because one day, you have a son. The next day, he wants to walk, more like run, hallway to the door, back and forth, but he is not yet one, and he falls, banging his head on the hardwood floor and howling at the pain and the fright of falling. I pretend like nothing happened. As if I could fool my son out of his tears. But my son is looking at me like I'm a bully. Something inside me tells me he's right. You see, I could be gone. Gone looking for God. Gone looking out for number one. Gone to write my days of solitary adventure, corner stack of dog-eared books, pot of cold coffee, cigarette smoke, and sandwich meat. Yeah, I can grow a beard. Tell myself that this is what sacrifice looks like. This is what personal freedom looks like. But I want my son to trust the traits I carry. I want to be present to pick him up from that howling place. I want him to empathize and understand what dignity in the place of pride is, what responsibility in the place of attitude is, what a macho really looks like. So then I take his hands, I take his knees, I kiss his feet and his hands, so he knows that men can be trusted not to leave too. Thank you. All right, so our last reader is Mexican-American spoken word artist from Diamond Bar, California, and has received honorariums from nearly 100 colleges and universities in 34 different states. That's called a working poet. Has performed in Mexico, Italy, and France. Is the co-founder of El Martillo Press, the nephew of Frank Romero, the cousin of Sonia Romero, who works inside Cheech, and is the author of My Name is Romero, Flower Song Press in 2020. I want to bring to David A. Romero.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. With those last couple of sentences, it might be possible to think that I have the honor of closing out the show because of nepotism. But that is not true. It's because of Donato Martinez that we are even here tonight. So give them another round of applause. For making it possible. So I want to give a special shout out to someone who couldn't be here tonight. His name is Matt Cedillo. He is my best friend. He is the co-founder of El Martillo Press. We are publishing Donato, Caesar, Margaret, and Paul. So give a round of applause for all of our authors. And hopefully Sonia. Yeah, we're gonna close the deal. It's gonna be beautiful. All right. So, the first poem that I'm going to perform this evening is the title poem of this collection. It is My Name is Romero. It happens every single night. Telemarketing Juliets, calling from that ivy-covered balconies, calling for their star-crossed lovers, calling. Hello, is Mr. Romeo in? I'm sorry, Romeo went to go grab a burrito, Mercutio to cruise Whittier Boulevard, and Shakespeare to take some ethnic studies lessons. In other words, fucker, Romeo isn't in. My name is Romero. I am not Italian. Centuries-old Spanish blood coursing through these veins, while my parents are not from Spain. And despite the Southern Californian accent, loud words like dead, sweet, and sick to tumble gracefully from these lips. I'm not a white guy, I'm a Mexican. My name is Romero. Romero like a brand of tortillas that escaped with Guerrero and Mission from the segregation of the ethnic food section into the main aisles of your local supermarket. My name is Romero. Romero like Archbishop Oscar Romero, zombie filmmaker George A. Romero, actor Caesar Romero. Yes, before Jack Nicholson, before Heath Ledger, a brown man played the Joker. They dressed him up in purple suit, green wig, and white face, though he would not shave his trademark suave and sexy Latin mustache. No, he was a Romero. I am a Romero. My parents had dark hair and dark eyes. When I was 7, my brother lied, told me that my father was the mailman. How can you be the son of our parents with your blue eyes and white skin? Well, brother, fucker, like Jerry Springer or Maori, the DNA results are in. I am a Romero, and I know what some of you are thinking, that I'm just another white guy trying to prove he's Latino. Or just another Mexican, chest beating his chest, beating whatever reputation he has left in the process, trying to convince you that his family, his country, his nationality are better than you. Well, I know as well as anyone that we are all the children of Africa, roots of no single family tree, but of a flourishing forest that grows collectively towards a magnificent destiny shining, radiating beauty. Just please, close your eyes. You can see. Now, fuck that shit. The name of this poem isn't "We are the world, we are the children." No! The name of this poem is "My Name is Romero," because if you're not proud of who you are, then what are you going to be proud of? And if you don't know where you come from, how are you supposed to know where you're going? And I know one thing, that the name of my father, and my father's father, and his father's father before him was Romero. Thank you. So, my sister Julie, where are you here? No. Oh, wow, she disappeared. Okay, it's an Ethan. All right, well, she's never heard me read this poem. This poem dedicated to her father. This is Caesar's favorite poem of mine. This poem is called Gorilla Arms. It was Sunday morning. My father had just gotten off work. Overtime shift, family room, pink box of donuts. My father's blue work shirt that put them on the table. Exhausted but happy, spending time with the family, his arms on the table, muscular, sweaty, heavy, hairy arms, a bratty, snotty-nosed child. I looked across the table and told him, "You look like a gorilla." It wasn't just the words, it was the cock of the head, the wrinkling of the nose, the arc of the eyebrow. It wasn't just the words, it was the sneer tucked inside of them. "You look like a gorilla." Who was the stranger who lived in my house, spent hours tinkering in the garage and lumbering out in the yard, yelled to rake up the leaves, pick up the dog poop, mow the lawn, left before I went to school, left in the middle of the night, oftentimes returned the same, always wearing that blue or orange uniform, always tired on those days, prone to anger, big, heavy work boots, clonking and clomping throughout the house. Sometimes he was covered in dirt, his hair uncombed and wild, work shirt unbuttoned, chest hair out, hairy arms like gorilla sleeves. Who was this stranger? He was my dad, my father. You look like a gorilla. It wasn't just the words, it was the inflection, it was my reflection, it was the teachers, the guest lecturers, the people on television, the parents of my friends. No one had ever told me that I should want to be like my father, blue collar, work with your hands, muscular, sweaty, heavy, hairy arms. He used them to clean ditches, build pipe systems, to cut down trees, to clear fields and embankments every day. For us, you look like a gorilla. There was hate there, disgust there, dehumanization, like how creationists can find nothing more filthy than to say that humans are descended from monkeys. It's chimpanzees. Like how racists call Mexicans cockroaches, cackle when they hear La Cucaracha. The Nazis called the Jews rats. Blacks were depicted for decades as more ape than Homo sapien. My brother commented on how they treated him at work. They treat me like their workhorse, a beast of burden. This was his first admission. This was racism. They treated him like a Mexican, and he hated it. My father was as stubborn as a bull, as strong as an ox, muscular, sweaty, heavy, hairy arms, gorilla arms, the arms that built our house, the arms that hugged my mother, that carried me as a child. I looked at those arms that Sunday morning and told him, "You look like a gorilla." Everything stopped. Everyone was shocked. Soon there was shouting, screaming. I ran, crying, out of the house and into the backyard. You look like a gorilla. I will regret saying that for the rest of my life. All right, so this last poem is it's called Micro Missions, and so it's a very, very beautiful moment to be able to be here in a museum in which my uncle's painting, The Arrest of the Paleteros, is on permanent display. My cousin Sophie, the artist of my work, her artwork right there with the heart is on permanent display. I remember when I was young, I went to Lackawanna, went on a field trip, high school or middle school field trip, and I talked to an art docent, and I asked her if my uncle's paintings might be in Lackawanna. Now, little did both of us know he had a famous show with Los Four there, a history ground-setting show, groundbreaking show. But she didn't know that. And basically, she just assumed that because his last name was Romero and he painted cars, that he must have been a car painter, not an artist, not a fine artist. So we are constantly belittled, we are constantly challenged, we are constantly underestimated. Our achievements are constantly looked down upon. So this is a poem about that. It's about us being at the top, owning our own spaces, like the Cheech, and having an opportunity to shine. This poem's called, once again, Micro Machines. Mexican kid with the white skin and blue eyes knows a lot about art. This brings a smile to the white face of a museum docent. She asks the boy how he knows so much. The boy replies, "My uncle is an artist. The boy says this without a hint of cynicism or derision. This to him is the greatest thing that a person can be, an artist. The docent asked the boy, "What's his name?" "Frank Romero." "What does your uncle paint?" "Cars." "He paints old cars, American cars from the 1920s through 50s, LA, palm trees, freeways, and familiar streets as the background, always bold in color with a zigzag impasto stroke, the kind of thing you see that immediately makes you say, 'That's a Romero.'" The boy suggests to the docent, "Maybe he has something here." A pause from her then. "There's an auto museum down the street. Maybe he has something there." "No, that doesn't seem right. Maybe what you mean is he paints cars." There's a dusty wood and tin garage under this museum, and the docent has put his uncle into it. They call this aggression, but really it's so easy as she does it. But his uncle doesn't look the same there. His uncle, with bold striped sweaters, full wild hair and beard, laugh big enough to fill a room, larger than life personality, looks very different in the docent's garage. To her, his uncle is a tiny uncle with a shaved head, brown Pendleton and Dickies, navy work apron, and silver paint spray can in hand. He paints with that in place of brush. The cars in the garage are smaller too. They're micro machines. And like them, the boy feels small and getting smaller. His hopes, his pride, all the world and its colors shrinking to a vanishing point because he knows what she means. I know what she meant. I couldn't expand upon these ideas fast enough. There is nothing wrong with painting cars, painting pictures of cars, or dressing like a cholo, but we are not all the same. You can't paint us all with the same brush, fit us all into the same stroke. Whatever the medium, there is nothing wrong with taking pride in your work, but what is wrong is for anyone to assume that we are a smaller people, a lesser people. It is wrong to assume that any one of us can't be acclaimed, can't hang in your museum, give him the top floor, because my uncle is an artist, a painter. His work has haunted galleries the world over. You can find him in the Smithsonian, see his mural in LA by the 101. And yes, he, like me, is a Mexican. My uncle is an artist, a painter who's been paid to paint cars that were literally bigger than the Mona Lisa. My uncle is an artist, a painter, and like me, he knows how to use the principle of diminution, which is making objects smaller in a piece of art to help create a sense of perspective. My uncle is an artist, a painter, and he doesn't get paid to talk about paintings. He gets paid to paint them with checks larger than your desperate attempts to try and reframe him. And I won't let any of you make me feel small about any of us ever again. Thank you very much, y'all. If it's possible, if I can invite the poets onto the stage for a group photo. Yes. Give a round of applause for your hosts.
Thank you guys very much for coming this evening. I know that we kind of ran a little over. We didn't get a chance to do a Q&A. They are telling me that you can't buy books, so stay open long enough to do that. But we have to be mindful that these folks who are working here have been working here all day long, and they're working this event, and they deserve to belong to their families as well. Okay?